How y'all doing? I'm James, and welcome back to Storytime with James. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you like. All right, this one's called 5 Hours of Power. Yes. Man, me and my cousins, we did some crazy things, Like this thing I'm finna tell y'all about. Look, we was at my house. We stayed roughly on 47 or 48th in Champlain. Okay? We stayed on 48th in Champlain. My cousin, he couldn't call his father to pick him up. But it was two of my cousins. Actually, my cousin Joe, was a karate fanatic, a karate fanatic. You know, he loved Bruce Lee. So he acted like Bruce Lee. He thought like Bruce Lee in everything, you know. So, and my cousin Rick. Rick was called Mousy. Mousy, And they called him Mousy because when we were little, he asked his father. He said, "Just give the mouse some cheese. Just give the mouse some cheese." He loved cheese, So, well, Joe came to us with some crazy idea he got in his head. He said, this was back in 1980. Okay, I was just a mere lad then. I was probably 15 years old, But they were a little older than me. My cousins were older than me, but so Joe devised this plan of walking from 47th to 147th Street. Yeah, 47th to 147th Street. So we talked about it for a minute. I say I can do it. And Rick would always say, yeah, well, hey, if y'all do it, I can do it. I know I can do it. So we set out to walk to 147th Street from 47th Street. That's roughly like 12.5 miles, okay? 12.5 miles. That's like a half marathon. A half marathon is like 13.1 miles. I don't know. But he said he can do it. He said he done it before. Joe said he done it before. I don't remember him doing it before, but he said he done it before. So we all prepared ourselves. But the thing that me and Rick didn't do was take water or anything with us, So we didn't have no packs or nothing like that. So we was just gonna walk it out. So we started walking. We started walking. We walked down to to like Wentworth. Wentworth was going straight south, So we walked to Wentworth, and then we started walking. So by the time we got to 80 something Street, we turned off Wentworth and got on the expressway, where we was walking on the shoulder of the road. Yeah, we was walking on the shoulder of the road. And man, I'm telling you, man, this journey took us 5.5 hours. So we was walking, and then all of a sudden, Rick, I kept looking back at Rick. He was way back there. And I said, "Come on, Rick. He said, "I'm coming." He said, "Y'all go ahead. I'll just come." I said, "Man." So I persuaded Joe to stop walking, because Joe was straight into it. He was into it. He was, walking like David Carradine from Kung Fu. Y'all remember Kung Fu? Remember David Carradine? He was the star of it, kung fu. So I think that was more of a, it was like, to him, it was a journey. I don't know what he was trying to prove to himself, that he can make it there, you know. So so Rick finally came up, and he was walking so slow. So we had to make him sit down. So he sat down, and he took his shoes off and everything, and his feet was hurting so bad. And so I said, man, I said, Joe, I don't think he gonna make it. He said, well, he will make it. He will. I said, whoa. So Rick sat there for like 30 minutes. 30 minutes. We took a 30-minute breather, and then we started walking again. Start walking. This is on the side of the expressway, the Dan Ryan Expressway. So we was walking. So I guess he was following the way we used to drive back and forth, you know, from Harvey to Chicago. So he was just following that route, you know. See, we walking. Then all of a sudden, it started raining. It was light rain though. It was lightly raining. So, but it was scorching hot at first. It was scorching hot. This was in July of 1980. Man, it was scorching hot that day. But that light rain came down. It cooled us off, but then we had to seek shelter. So we got up under a weeping willow tree. So, and it kind of blocked the rain off of us. And it rained for like maybe 20 to 30 minutes. And then it slowed down to just dripping, you know. So Joe said, let's go. He started again. We started walking. Man, this journey was terrible, man. Especially on Rick. I don't know. He had some trying to think of what shoes he had on. Maybe Converses. Remember the Converses with the star on the side, the canvas ones? He had some of those on. So I guess, man, they was too thin for his feet, because we was walking on rocks and everything. But man, I'm telling you, it took us 5 hours to get there. So we had to stop again. And then when we stopped, we had like 2 hours to go. 2 hours to make it there. And Joe said, stop. And he went in he had a backpack. He took it off, and he brought water out. And I was like, oh my goodness, where you get some water from? He said, I have water. Drink. So I took a couple swigs, gave it to Rick, let him drink some. Then Joe drank some. And then Joe pulled some packs. He pulled some ham out of his bag. Yeah, it was chunks of ham. I don't know where he got that from, but it was chunks of ham, and he had bread. Chunks of ham and bread. No mayonnaise or nothing to put on it, but that was a welcome dish. So we sat on the side of the expressway eating ham and bread. So then Joe said, maybe this will help you with energy. This will give you a little energy. So he said he'd give us some energy. So after that, we drank the water up and stuff. He said, let's go. And we was going again. Walking again. Walk. And then I saw 147th Street on the expressway sign. So we started walking up the ramp, and we were there. And because they live right off of 147th Street. They live right off Sibley Boulevard. Off Sibley. Man, it was a welcome. When we walked in that house, all what we can do was sit on the couch. I sat on the couch, man, and it felt like my legs were still doing like this, walking. And it come to find out, when we left, we took the time. So we had the time when we left the house, when we left on 47th Street, and when we arrived at 147th Street. That was 100 blocks, and it was 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours. That we spent that walking. Of course, my uncle and them started going off on us and stuff, saying, "Y'all stupid for doing that. What y'all do that for?" I could say, "Hey, I was just following them, you know." So after I slept for the night there, the next day, I think my mother came and got us. My mom came and got us, or my father or somebody. When they came and got us and drove us back to the house. Man, I'm telling you, that was a straight up journey. This is before I even ran a marathon, you know. But you know, when I ran marathons, you know, it was 26 point something miles, you know. So, but this was before that, way before that. But we walked it, we power walked it, and it didn't damage us in no way. We weren't damaged or nothing. But except Rick, his feet was sore and stuff like that. He had to soak his feet, you know, and stuff like that. But that's it. Man, the crazy things we used to do. The crazy things we used to do. Yes. All right, you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave me a comment if you like. And hit that bell notification. Hit that bell notification so that you know every time I drop another video. Yeah. And share. Share my videos with your family. Share my videos with your friends. Share my videos with your loved ones. And even share it with your enemies. Adios. Salamat. I seek water. I seek water, grasshopper.